All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome one and all to our Friday forum, the last one in November, because it's the last Friday in November. So to everyone who's joining me today, hello, welcome in the forum from our TEFLPros Teacher Garden. And if you're listening to us on social media, YouTube, any of those channels like that, I bid you welcome as well, and we're so happy to have you here. To my friends and colleagues in the United States, hope you all had a festive and enjoyable Thanksgiving. And some, I don't know if Black Friday is still a thing. Where I live in the Czech Republic, Black Friday is like a whole month. I don't think they really kind of grasped the element of Black Friday, but it's more or less the whole month. And like the big Black Friday sales are like 10%, but different cultures, they do their best. But I am glad to have you guys here today. And it's going to be a cool topic to discuss this week. We had a lot of people onboarded to this course, and I've had a lot of people reach out to me about this course in these last couple weeks. So I figure this is a good video, good recording, good forum to talk about TEFL in general as a broad element, because I do think a lot of people, unless you're keen to the terminology, to the acronyms and everything, not to coin a phrase, but it's a little foreign, isn't it? It's strange, especially to a lot of, to a lot of my North American colleagues, because, what is TEFL? What does it mean? What is ESL? What are these terms? What do they mean? And, who qualifies to do these things? And why would you even do such a ridiculous thing? That's what we're going to go at for this Friday forum. We're just going to literally start from the outer layer and just start peeling this onion back. We're going to, get into, why someone would take a TEFL course, why someone would pursue teaching English at home, abroad, things like that. And maybe some of the subtle differences there are between, being what you think of a traditional teacher to be versus what this ecosystem actually consists of, because I know when I got into it, the TEFL world, it was nothing that I thought it would be. It was intimidating from the outside, and we'll talk a little bit about that. It's probably been one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life, and it has opened doors that I could never imagine of having been opened for myself or for my colleagues and those around me. And in the work I've been doing in the TEFL world, which spans coming up on 12 years now, 12 years now, coming up, maybe about 11 and a half years. It's getting there. But, you see so much more of this world than what you would just get from maybe a web page or a blog, things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to talk about the process. I'm going to talk about some of the myths, and maybe if you are, a casual listener, if you are maybe a little intrigued on, what this is all about, maybe this video, this listening is your first step, just like I took a first step, just like the thousands and thousands of teachers I've helped move to the Czech Republic and all around the world have all taken their first step. International English teacher is not one of those jobs that, you say you want to be in first grade when the teacher asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? I know in the USA, what do we say? Policeman, fireman. We might say teacher, but in the most direct American, there's a teacher standing in front of me kind of way, you wouldn't think of, traveling the world, experiencing the fruits of so many cultures, and using English education as your vehicle for that. I've helped a lot of people who were retirees, people who've spent their lives doing good, honest work. Maybe not the work they wanted to do, maybe not something they took a lot of pride in, but it provided for them, it provided their family, and now they're retired and they want to do something meaningful, maybe from an outside perspective, of course. All work you do, you can find meaning in, but you want to maybe reach out to people and help people. You want to deliver education, new information to someone who stands to benefit greatly from not just your language, but from your experiences as well. And we're going to touch on that as well, on that special something else that only you have, that only you can bring to the table as far as being an English instructor. So let's start at the top. All right. So what is TEFL? TEFL is simply an acronym that stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language. No more, no less. And it comes in many different varieties. You can have, a traditional teacher who's in a classroom with some demographic, whether it be children, whether it be teenagers, elementary school, middle school, high school. There's English speaking daycares out there. There are, in the business world, there's English for adults who work for companies. And a lot of these companies provide benefits that include English lessons. So maybe you work for a company and you might get like a cell phone or a company car or like a gym pass. Well, a lot of companies in non-English speaking countries, they can offer English lessons, and you can be the benefactor of that. You can go and work, teach English for these massive Fortune 500 companies, these big companies, or maybe just some local small businesses, things like that. There's a large, pool of people who wants to learn English for the purpose of economy, culture, relationships, things like that. Of course, my wife is Czech, and she had an English instructor. Not when we started dating, she was already pretty far along. But it allows you to cross cultures, things like that. If you want to travel, English, of course, is obviously not the most common language in the world, but the most widely spoken. So there are many reasons why someone would like to have an English instructor. And like I said, not all of it is in a traditional style classroom. Anywhere you go in the world, you will have different markets for English as a second language. And I think that's really cool, but also not something I was expecting when I came to the Czech Republic. When I thought of an English teacher, and I would say most of us do the same, we think of our English teachers. We think of high school, middle school, elementary school, college, university, where you have to sit in a classroom. But it's so much more than that. So that's one cool thing about being a TEFL instructor, is that you have a lot of different groups at your fingertips. So you figured out what TEFL is, and you've decided that, hey, maybe I'll take a course. And that brings us to the illustrious TEFL course, which is what TEFLPros is. We are a TEFL course. And there's a bunch of different types of TEFL courses out there. Some are online, some are in person, some are like a blended mix of both. The TEFL course I took was in person in the Czech Republic. I moved here, then took the course, then sought my fortune and successes in the country, and I'll touch briefly on that as well. Not too deep, but briefly. We'll talk briefly on that. So your TEFL course for a market standard is usually going to be about 120 hours. How those hours are divvied up is all about how the course arranges it. It might be 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. That's about 8 hours a day. That's 40 hours a week, 3 weeks, boom, 120 hours, waka waka. There could be some courses like our course, for example. You take it when you can. You take this course online when you're free. So let's say you're free during the day. If you have kids or something like that, you can take your kids to school. You got some free time during the day. Start taking some of the modules in our course. If you work during the day, take a few modules in the evening. If you have a busy work week, take some over the weekend. Pour a glass of wine, light a candle, make it romantic. Something like that. That is a TEFL course. And once you get through this 120-hour course, you get your certificate, and you are now qualified at the most basic of levels. You can now seek work. And to a lot of places, they want, a lot of schools globally, they want, a lot of times they'll ask for what's called a native speaker. If you see that term, you wonder, what's a native speaker? A native speaker is someone who grew up and lived and functioned in an English-speaking society. So Canada, United States, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, places like that. The UK, ain't gonna forget the UK there. A lot of native-speaking countries. However, that is not always a requirement. Because of course every company is a little bit different. Just make sure you read the specs on when you're doing your job hunt. So what do you need to take a TEFL course for 120 hours? The course I took and the course that we offer at TEFLPros, you need to just be able to understand English. No more, no less. That's the start and the finish. You don't have to have a background in English. You don't have to have a background in education. You don't have to have ever taught before. This could be this is one of those turning over a new leaf type of situations. And that's one thing that I always really loved and appreciated about getting a TEFL certificate, is that it is an opportunity for reinvention. That's what I've seen with a lot of people, maybe not, from anything terrible or horrible, but just a new direction, a new career path, a new interest, even things like that. That's what a TEFL course can be. That's what a teaching certification can do for you. Like I said, you don't have to have any pedigree getting into it. I found that to be very refreshing because in my time in the USA, I was always not qualified. Everyone told me, every job I applied for, everything, there was, whatever you have, we need something else. And that just absolutely took the wind out of me, honestly. Took the wind out of me. But then that fateful day, and you can check out some of my other interviews, when I was told about what a TEFL course is, and I called that TEFL course and I said, I've never taught before. I've never even thought of teaching before. And my mother was a teacher, but it's never been a thing I've done. They said, hey, don't worry. We'll figure you out. We'll get it. We'll get you in there. And they did. They made it very palpable, real, understandable. And of course, it fit with my kind of YOLO mentality at that point in time. And it served as a vehicle for change, for where one life trajectory was going, and then it altered it. No more, no less. And I've seen that with so many people. And not all these people want to be career teachers. It's not necessarily that. As I said before, it could be something for retirees to give something back to society in their later years after they've put in their hard-earned hours at their day jobs. If you are a traveler, or you want to be a traveler, and you want to travel the world and see all these places, experience all these things, English teaching is in such high demand that you can really just traverse different societies and use English teaching as your tool to navigate from one to the next. So you're not burning through your own cash. You're not burning through, I think I came to the Czech Republic with like a couple $1,000s. Not a lot. Not a lot at all. If someone were to talk to me right now about moving to the Czech Republic and they told me they have what I had, I would probably tell them to hang back and get a second or third job and hang out, wait for 6 months to a year, put some more capital behind you. But hey, once again, I tell people if a nitwit like me can do this, I think anyone can. So it can be a means to an end. You want to backpack across Europe. You want to explore Southeast Asia. You want to check out Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Central America, South America. All of these places, we have placed English teachers, and we have English teachers that that I've met, that I've personally hung out with, who are gainfully working and funding their life and funding their travel and their experiences. I think Tim Ferriss calls it lifestyle design, where they are not, he says that you don't want to, make sure I paraphrase this right. It's not that you want to be a millionaire. It's you want to go through the same experiences that a millionaire would go through. That's the idea. And TEFL, being an English instructor, is just another means to, scratch that itch, if you will. Here's another idea for TEFL. It is also a massive online component to the English as a foreign language world now. Because, of course, after COVID, after the last decade or so, the online companies really emerged as big players in this world. And there are so many online schools where you can actually teach, let's say, from your home to someone in a foreign country. You can teach from where you are. So maybe there isn't a lot of economy around where you are. Maybe there's only a handful of jobs. Maybe you don't have a car. Maybe you don't drive. Maybe your situation is keeping you in a location where you are subject to that local economy and nothing more, nothing less. Well, having a TEFL certificate means you can work online for a lot of these schools that are based here in the Czech Republic, that are based in Southeast Asia. A former client of mine who lived in the Czech Republic opened up this massive school that is entirely online that teaches English to people in Costa Rica and South America. And you can do this sitting on your couch, in backwoods, West Virginia. No lie there. So, like I said, there are many different purposes and, ways that a TEFL certificate can serve. That can help you economically. It can help you geographically. It can, be a means to an end. Or if you just want to, maybe you don't have to travel from place to place to place. You want to go check out a new culture. If you want to go check out somewhere new, a TEFL certificate gets your foot in the door. A lot of people I know, and I'm not trying to miff on my own industry right now. Not all of us are cut out to be lifetime teachers. It's a means to an end a lot of times. And some people will use it as a way to get into a culture with minimal effort and hardships, as far as finding work, as far as landing a job, things like that. Because English teachers are needed everywhere English isn't spoken as the native language. So that could be an inspiration for you. Let's say you wanted to maybe live in Tokyo or Kyoto. Maybe you want to live in Rio de Janeiro. Let's say you wanted to, live in Czech Republic, I guess. Hey, I'll throw my own backyard out on this one. A TEFL certificate is a quick way for you to make sure you have the economy and the finance to assimilate while you build whatever it is you're building, whether you're a graphic designer, whether you're an actor, whether you are, in tech, whether you're in tech and design, whether you're an entrepreneur or food, or you're thinking about, growing a franchise, English teaching, it'll pay the bills. It'll make sure that you can get set up wherever you are and you can kind of, drink from the goblet of life, if you will. So those are some reasons and some purposes that a TEFL certificate can fulfill. Some things that can help you with. So what's a TEFL course like? What's it actually like to take a TEFL course? Well, a lot of them, of course, they vary in general delivery, but the idea is that, of course, they're not there to teach you English. You know English. They're there to give you a series of pre-approved techniques that help you be a successful teacher in the classroom. And of course, when you go through it, I'll be the first to tell you, when I took my TEFL course, and most of my colleagues have agreed with me, 48 hours into the course, you're like, I know very little about my own language. Oh man, that was my first panic attack when I came here. Because you're talking about things that either you learned a million years ago, or something that, maybe it just never was valuable, because we learn English the same way you learn philosophy. This is something I already do, but why am I doing it? However, you're going to be teaching English like you would teach math, where A plus B equals C. So in regards to that, it takes this giant gulp, and you swallow it and you say, all right, I'm going to sponge up as much as I can, and I'm going to barrel through this course, and I'm going to get through it in one piece. And we did. My TEFL course did. I think there was 14 of us, and we all got through it, varying levels. We had just like most schools, we had a top of the class, we had a bottom of the class. I was smack dab in the middle. Not an English gangster by any stretch, but I wasn't at the bottom either. We'll say that. My English has always been much more presentation than description and function, we'll say. So after I took my course, and you learned a lot of cool techniques, you learned a lot of different methodologies, nothing too heady, not too heady concept. It's nothing that I think would go over the average person's head. You take your course, you get your techniques, you grow them, you develop them. In some previous forums, I do mention some techniques to potentially help you with, your lesson planning skills, with different stylings of teaching. The idea of teacher talk time, guided discovery, all those fun terms. And you refine them. And of course, you are as good of an English teacher as you are expected to be after 120 hours of work. So think of how good you were at anything after doing it for 120 hours and no more. Not the rock star, but that's when the work comes in. And then after you've finished your TEFL course, you get your certificate, your big congratulations, and essentially the world is yours. So we've gone through our course. We know our little acronyms, things like that. We've found some purpose, some value in a TEFL course. So now where do we apply it, and how do we apply it? Because that is another thing that caught me completely off guard. Because when I finished my TEFL course, of course, I was my very theatrical self. I was very over the top, very, weird, ridiculous, whatever you want to call it. But how does that translate into the working world? And, I was not the strongest grammar study. It was just infinite terminology. And, frankly, some people have it, some people don't. And I see it across the board. As I said before, you do not have to be this, Shakespearean rock star of linguistics to be a TEFL instructor. You just have to have enough of a grasp of a language, be able to speak it, and that's where the rest of it comes in. Be able to learn and grow with it. That's where the post-TEFL course comes in. So in my case, I was looking for various jobs, language schools where I was teaching adults, various other things. And I found I was actually kind of at the end of my job hunt, and I wasn't finding much. And I found an ad. I saw an ad for a school called a gymnasium, or in Czech we call it gymnasium. And if you're Czech and listening to this, you probably know this story. You've probably heard me talk about this one before. And I thought, as I'm sure those who aren't Czech are listening, oh, gymnasium, working out, treadmills, exercise bikes, weights, machines, power drinks, things like that. And I couldn't have been far from that, because a gymnasium is actually a Czech word for a typicalized high school. So when I went to my job interview, I was quite surprised that there was no posters of just completely jacked people on the walls, or any sort of working out equipment or supplements, but instead there were pictures of teenagers in like graduation robes on the walls. And I was like, oh boy, but I'm here. Might as well see it through, see where this rabbit hole goes. I'm in a high school, applying for a job as a high school teacher, having never taught before in my life, minus this 120-hour TEFL course. I am in a high school, a very swanky high school, mind you. And I go in and we sit down. They ask me about my English teaching background, and I told them it was vast, to say the least. And then they start asking me about different subjects. And that is the segue I'm looking for, because this is where I talk about what you bring to the table. This is something that cannot be taught in the TEFL classroom. And that is personal experience in the English speaking world, experience as that only you can bring from what you have gone through in life, no more, no less. And so I sat in this interview for a private high school that is definitely one of the bigger names in Prague / Czech Republic. And, they were asking me, what do you teach? What can you teach geography? Can you teach geography? All right. Well, the short answer is no. But the long-winded answer is, well, I was a truck driver for almost 6 years in America. You want to talk about regions? You want to talk about cultures? You want to talk about demographics and how they are spread and affect various communities? Oh, man. Hey, I'll walk into this classroom and I'll tell these kids what Alabama smells like. And if you're listening to this and you're from Alabama, it smells nice. No more, no less. And they go, wow, that you really have something here. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. I can teach that. Well, great. That sounds very good. They ask me again, can you teach film? Just a complete right term. Can you teach film? And suddenly I'm like, well, once again, have I ever taught film before? No. Have I ever been in a situation where I educated people on films? No, not really. However, what they didn't know, and what I brought them in on, is that they were also talking to a former shift manager of Blockbuster Video. And I told them that I discussed movies for hours every day for years on end. And I can talk about different eras of film, different film styles, techniques, directors, public interest pieces, things like that, and I nearly blew them out of their chairs. They're like, "Oh my God!" The clouds opened up and dropped you into our school. This unqualified former truck driver from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and all of those things, all of those events in my USA world, in my USA life, and I mentioned this in a previous video as well. All of those things played out in this theater of the Czech Republic, in this world of education. The stories, the instances, the situations, the run-ins, the encounters, all of these things played out in the classroom as tools that I use in my classes. And the students loved it because it was real. It was authentic. It was, it had an educational background to it because there's always kind of a point behind it. Probably why I'm so good with these Friday forums now is because this is essentially what I did in my classrooms. Only those were slightly more interactive. You guys are just kind of hanging out. But like I said, we do a Q&A before this part of the forum begins. So if you want to join the Teacher's Garden, we can hang out before the calls, before the forum starts, and we can talk a little bit about yourselves and where you're trying to go. But those things from my past played out massively in the classroom, and I mentioned this before. 4 separate schools have offered me lifetime tenures, where they literally have a contract that says you are here until you don't want to be. Which, if you are a teacher in the United States, holy shit, right? I said it. Holy guacamole. We'll say that. Hey, it's Friday, right? It's Friday and it's after Thanksgiving. We could drop a few swear words, can't we? The students loved it when I swear too, by the way. They couldn't handle it. It was awesome. But all those things played out in the classroom. The TEFL certificate was what got me in the door. And the rest of the education came from being in that classroom every single day, Monday through Friday, for over 10 years. Growing as myself as a teacher, developing my lessons, figuring out what worked, what didn't, helping students write college essays. Once again, things that a 120-hour TEFL course did not teach me how to write an essay for a student to get into Oxford or Cambridge or Trinity, but somehow I've put students into all 3. Massive, preparing them for field trips. My school, they sent me to England, to Wales, which is probably one of my favorite countries in the UK. Loved Wales. They sent me to Ireland and Northern Ireland on a field trip. Man. Like, my school sent me to the Science Center, down by what was then Three River Stadium. This school put me on a bus, a charter bus, paid me, gave me walking around money, and sent me to Liverpool to go see, bars and places where the Beatles performed. They sent me to climb mountains in Wales and look at those weird stone walls and, just endless amounts of sheep. They sent me to York to experience the culture there. There's a wonderful chocolate factory there. There's an epic Viking ride thing that's in downtown York as well. So cool. And all of this started with a TEFL course, with just a TEFL course. And that's, I think, one of the, that's the butterfly wing flap that started in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, when I said, what the hell does TEFL even mean? And how can this help a former truck driver from the South Hills of Pittsburgh? That's what a TEFL program can offer you. And that's a big reason why we now have our TEFL course, is because not only is it something that I've been through, that my team has been through, everyone on the TEFLPros team has taught English for a substantial amount of time. Whether it was Whitney that was in Southeast Asia, myself, Elaine, who are here in the Czech Republic, we are, a very in it team. And we love talking about our experiences. We love bringing you on board with our experiences because wherever you are right now in your journey, whether you are listening to this and wondering what the hell is he talking about, this whole TEFL thing, whether you're in the course right now, you're listening to this and you say, hey, this is where I'm going. Whether you've finished your course and you are now actively trying to figure out where you're going to be in the world or what you're going to do with this, or whether you are in it, you are teaching, you are tenured, you are working, or whether you're past it, you got where you were going, you used it for what you needed to use it for. Now it sits on the shelf, just like a fire extinguisher, just in case you need it. In case of emergency, take your TEFL certificate, get some work, always some work to be done. So these are all things, these are all elements that, we're all on this journey at some point, myself included. I'm just in some weird, freakish, divergent path of it. But as I said, still teaching, still love it. That's it. I also have, companies that help people immigrate, focusing mostly on English teachers. That's kind of the soup du jour in the Czech Republic when it comes to Americans who move here. I also have a staffing agency where I literally connect with companies all over the world and make sure that TEFL teachers, my teachers in the Czech Republic, everywhere has somewhere to land because the market is so vast. I can't even begin to describe to you guys that there are more teaching jobs than there are teachers. And they're not looking for, Albert Einstein. They're not looking for these, rock stars of academia. They're looking for real people who can bring real stories and real instances to light, to their classroom, so they can offer a different experience to their students. Because that's what we are. We're the weird foreigners over here. We're the strange ones. I told my students, hey, I eat potato salad in summertime, and they look at me like, that's a Christmas food, you psychopath. I'm the weird foreigner now. I'm the weird guy. And that's cool. That's cool. I mean, I'm the only guy in my neighborhood who's got about 300 feet of Christmas lights outside their property. And every year when I set them up, everyone gathers outside of my home and starts taking pictures and stuff. So cool, I'm going to tell my daughter we're like rock stars or something, and that's all the paparazzi. But I said it starts somewhere. Sorry, I was tangenting right there for a minute. But it starts somewhere. And like I said, those are the pieces. Those are the elements of it. And that's how we help you. That is how us over here at TEFLPros make sure that you get where you're going, because you have all of these resources at the ready for you. You have a course that is internationally accredited, ready to certify you around whatever your schedule is. You have myself and my network ready to find work for you, whether you want to work from home, whether you want to work in, Beijing, whether you want to work, in Greece, or whether you want to, traverse, the Arabian Peninsula. We have connections all over the world. We also, of course, have my relocation agency, which has the knowledge and know-how to help you get to those places. Those are all active resources that are there for you that come with being a part of our TEFLPros family. So I think with that, we'll cap it there. Like I said, there's a lot of meat on this bone and a few more topics I would want to get deeper into, but it's a pretty layman's talk today. What is TEFL? Why would I be interested in it? What can it do for me? And can I even do it if I've never even thought of it before? Well, if you got this far, I think you've thought of it. So if you do have any questions about the course, about anything I've talked about, you can reach out to me at david@TEFLPros.com. You can reach out to me on any of our social media platforms as well. And we'd love to answer your questions and would love to hear from you. So, of course, the webpage is www.TEFLPros.com. And other than that, I think we had our Friday, guys. I think we had a good one. So to everyone who's listening on our forum here, I see you guys looking good. To everyone who's listening on YouTube, whether it's be today or later on down the week or whatever, thank you. And again, we'll be back next Friday. I usually announce what the topic is on our Teacher's Garden, usually on Monday or Tuesdays when I announce the next topic. I have to give it a think and give you guys a chance to drop some comments and some questions and see if, we can help you guide or help you guide us to where, you want to get some stuff out of us. So that's the idea today. So have a wonderful week ahead. Stay healthy out there. Stay warm. It's getting a little bit cold. And we'll talk to you guys in December. So take care. Cheers, guys.